Hello, my friend. I'm Dr. Mary Parker, cardiologist and educator in heart health for adults over 60. And today I want to talk to you with total honesty about something that casi nadie ve como peligroso, a daily routine that looks calm, harmless, even deserved after a life of work. But that, día tras día, is stiffening the arteries much faster than your age alone. For décadas nos dijeron que, después de los 60, la presión alta, las piernas pesadas y la circulación pobre son simplemente parte de hacerse mayor. Pero cuando miramos lo que ocurre dentro de las arterias, vemos otra verdad. No es solo la edad, es la manera en que usamos el cuerpo todos los días, desde que abrimos los ojos hasta que nos acostamos. I want to be very clear from the beginning. This video is not about blaming you for resting, sitting, or wanting comfort. You have ganado el derecho a cuidar tu cuerpo con cariño. What I want is to show you how a very common, restful routine is, in realidad, a perfect recipe for hardening arteries at full speed. And much more important than that, I want to show you how small changes in that same routine can turn your day into una especie de tratamiento natural para tus vasos sanguíneos, more flexible arteries, better circulation, more energy, and a greater chance of enjoying your years with autonomy and confidence. So let's start with something very concrete. Imagine a typical day after 60. Maybe this sounds familiar. You wake up, sit on the edge of the bed a moment, feel a little stiffness in your knees or lower back, and your first thought is, I have to move slowly. I don't want to hurt myself. You walk to the kitchen, you sit down, you have breakfast. When you finish, you feel that it's too early to go out, or perhaps you don't have any particular reason to go anywhere. So you go to your favorite chair, you turn on the TV, or you take your phone. Minutes turn into hours without you noticing. Many retired people, or those who work from home, have a day that looks like this. Long blocks of sitting, sometimes 2 or 3 hours in a row, interrupted only by small trips to the bathroom, the kitchen, or the front door. In the afternoon, more of the same. Couch, chair, computer, maybe a short nap, also lying down. At night, dinner, a bit of TV to disconnect, and then bed. If we add it up, it's not unusual to see 8, 9, or even 11 hours of the day spent sitting or almost without moving, especially on days without errands or visits. From the outside, it looks like a quiet day, a peaceful life. Many families even say, it's good that he rests, he shouldn't push himself. But for the arteries, this kind of day has a different name, a chair-bound day. And a chair-bound day, repeated almost every day of the week, becomes a chair-bound 52 weeks a year. Life. This pattern of almost continuous sitting is, in my experience and in many studies, uno de los hábitos diarios más potentes para acelerar la rigidez arterial después de los 60. It's silent, it doesn't hurt, it doesn't make noise, but it's there, shaping your circulation. To understand why this routine is so damaging, we need to understand what an artery really is. Your arteries are not rigid pipes like plastic or metal tubes. They are living tissue. Their walls are made of elastic fibers and smooth muscle that allow them to expand and contract with each heartbeat. On the inside, they're lined with a delicate layer of cells called the endothelium, like a silky inner skin that senses how the blood moves. When blood flows smoothly and with good speed, the endothelium receives a mechanical signal that tells it, produce protective substances, relax the artery, keep it flexible. One of the most important of those substances is called nitric oxide. Think of nitric oxide as a natural signal of relaxation for your blood vessels. It helps the artery wall loosen a little, improves blood flow, lowers pressure, and prevents platelets from sticking where they shouldn't. The body produces this molecule constantly, but especially when the blood moves more vigorously, like when you walk, climb stairs, or move your legs and arms with energy. Every step you take is like a message to your arteries. Stay young, stay flexible, keep opening and closing with ease. Now imagine the opposite scenario. You wake up, sit down, eat, and sit again. Your legs are bent, your hips are at a right angle, your abdomen is compressed. The muscles of your calves, which I sometimes call the second heart because they help pump blood back up to the chest when you walk, are almost asleep. The blood in your lower limbs moves more slowly. some of it tends to pool in the veins, and the overall speed of circulation in those areas decreases. For the endothelium, the message changes completely. There is less stimulating flow, less need to release nitric oxide, and more tendency to allow subtle inflammatory changes. Over time, this slow, monotonous flow contributes to a kind of boredom in the arterial wall. The artery stops training its elasticity. It's like a rubber band that you stretch every day versus one that stays forgotten in a drawer. The one you use remains flexible for years. The one you never use dries out, becomes brittle, and eventually loses its ability to stretch. In medical terms, we call this increased arterial stiffness, and we can measure it, but you don't need a machine to feel its consequences. Higher blood pressure, more effort to walk uphill, colder hands and feet, and a heart that has to work harder to pump against those stiffer tubes. The chair-bound day routine doesn't just reduce movement. It often associates with a second blow to the arteries, how we eat when we're sitting. Many breakfasts after 60 look like this: white bread or refined flour, processed meats like sausages or cold cuts, cheeses high in salt, and 2 or 3 cups of strong coffee, sometimes with sugar. Add to that the habit of eating fast, almost without chewing, while watching the news or scrolling through messages. This type of breakfast creates a rapid spike in blood sugar, a flood of sodium, and sometimes a transient rise in blood pressure in the following hours. When you combine that internal storm with the lack of movement afterwards, the scenario is perfect for endothelial stress. Elevated sugar and fat levels make the blood more aggressive for the inner wall of the artery, while the lack of movement keeps the flow lazy and low in stimulus. It's as if the artery is being bathed in a more irritating environment without receiving the protective massage of walking. Repeated day after day, these small hits encourage the deposition of fat particles, favor low-level inflammation, and little by little transform a flexible vessel into a more rigid and thickened tube. Midday, the pattern often continues. If you still work, you may spend hours at a desk. If you're retired, you may spend them in front of the TV, doing word puzzles, reading, sewing, or on the phone. All of these activities are good for the brain, but they become a double-edged sword when the body stays immobile. During these long periods, metabolism slows down, muscles demand less fuel, sugar from meals circulates longer before being used. Insulin, the hormone that helps move sugar into cells, has to work harder, and over the years, many people develop insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is not only a problem for diabetes, it's also a vascular problem. High insulin levels and frequent sugar spikes damage the endothelium, favor the formation of plaques, and increase arterial stiffness. So, the chair-bound day doesn't just act mechanically, by removing movement. It also acts chemically, changing the internal environment in which your arteries live. The less you move, the more easily your body stores excess energy as fat, and the more your arteries are exposed to this mix of sugar, fat, and low-grade inflammation. In the afternoon and evening, the third act of this routine begins. Large dinners, sometimes late, followed by more sitting or lying down on the couch. Many people eat their heaviest meal at night, often in front of the television. They finish, remain seated, and then go straight to bed. In this window, the body has to digest, manage salt, sugar, and fats, and regulate nighttime blood pressure. But again, it lacks the help of gentle movement that would support circulation and metabolism. For older arteries, that means another period of stress without the protective rhythm of muscles and movement. When you add all of this together, long periods of sitting, meals rich in salt and refined foods, very little post-meal movement, and evening marathons in the armchair, you get a routine that I call the silent stiffener. It doesn't cause immediate pain like a sprain or a fall, but each day leaves a microscopic mark. Arterial fibers lose elasticity. The endothelium becomes less efficient. The heart must push harder against a more rigid system, and even if you feel fine now, this routine is building the conditions for future events. Higher pressure, more risk of arrhythmias, and in many cases, greater probability of heart attacks and strokes in the coming years. Some people tell me, "But doctor, I don't feel anything serious, just normal fatigue." This is another trap of the chair-bound day. Its consequences grow slowly. The body adapts. What would have seemed alarming years ago ends up feeling normal. You get used to needing the railing to use the stairs. You get used to feeling your feet heavy in the afternoon. You get used to avoiding walking a few blocks more because there's no need. The brain adjusts, lowers its expectations, and silently labels that decline as old age, when in reality, a good part is simply the result of a routine that could be modified. Here comes the part that many people find most surprising. To protect your arteries, you don't need to become an athlete, run marathons, or join a gym full of machines. The biggest protective factor for your arteries after 60 is not intense exercise once in a while. It's frequency of movement. In other words, how many times during the day do you tell your body, wake up, move, pump blood, lubricate your joints, activate your muscles? Breaking the chair-bound day is less about adding something huge and more about weaving small movement moments, I like to call them circulation snacks, into your routine. Imagine we take that same typical day and we start to transform it, without taking away your favorite activities, but interrupting the worst parts of the routine. The goal is simple. Avoid long blocks of stillness and give your arteries multiple gentle reminders that they are still alive and flexible. To do that, we're going to touch different moments of the day, how you greet the morning, what you do right after eating, how often you stand up, how you sit, how you breathe, and how you prepare your body for sleep. Let's begin with the very first minutes of the day. Instead of going from bed to chair in a straight line, I want you to imagine a wake-up for your arteries. Before you even stand up, sit on the edge of the bed, place your feet on the floor, and do 10 to 20 gentle ankle circles in each direction. Lift your heels and then your toes, as if you were pressing invisible pedals. This simple movement activates the calf muscle pump and begins to move the blood that has been a bit stagnant overnight. Then take 5 slow, deep breaths, expanding your ribs, not just your shoulders. With each exhale, relax your face, your jaw, your neck. Then, when you stand up, instead of walking straight to your usual chair, spend 1 or 2 minutes walking calmly around the house. You can go to the kitchen, but make a little loop, visit a window, or walk the hallway. Feel the soles of your feet, notice how your knees and hips adapt. These first 2 or 3 minutes may seem insignificant, but they send a clear message to your circulatory system. The day is starting with movement, not with stillness. You are already making your arteries expand and contract, your heart beat a little stronger, and your muscles demand more oxygen. At breakfast, I'm not going to ask you to completely change everything overnight, but I will invite you to think of that meal as fuel for the arteries. Try to reduce the amount of added salt and processed meats, and add at least one element that helps the endothelium: a portion of fruit, some oats, a handful of nuts, or a slice of whole grain bread instead of refined flour. These foods provide fiber, antioxidants, and healthy fats that support nitric oxide production and protect arterial walls. If you drink coffee, accompany it with a glass of water to avoid dehydration, another very common accelerator of stiffness. And here comes a key change. Right after breakfast, do not go directly to the chair for long. Commit to a short, gentle walk, even 5 to 10 minutes inside or outside the house. You can walk around your own living room, down the hallway, or on the sidewalk in front of your home. The form is not important, the continuity is. This small walk after eating helps your body handle sugars better, reduces the pressure peaks that sometimes appear after meals, and gives your arteries a first training session of the day. It's like telling them, we are not going back to sleep, we're going to work together. Now, let's talk about the rest of the morning. If you like to read, watch TV, or check your messages, you can continue doing it. What we will not allow is sitting for more than 30 to 40 minutes without interrupting. I like to call these interruptions artery breaks. Every 30 to 40 minutes, stand up, even if you don't feel like it, and perform a sequence of 1 or 2 minutes. March in place, lift your knees a little, rise up on your toes and back down 10 or 15 times, gently swing your arms, or simply walk to another room and back. These artery breaks do several things at once. They reactivate the calf pump, which helps push venous blood back to the heart. They increase the speed of blood flow through your arteries, stimulating the release of nitric oxide. They prevent blood from pooling in your legs and reduce the risk of clots in people with high risk. And, perhaps most importantly, they send a constant reminder to your body that, even though you are sitting part of the day, you are not trapped in a chair-bound day without interruptions. The day becomes a sequence of short rests between small movements, not a long block of stillness with occasional interruptions. You might be thinking, what if my knees hurt, or I'm afraid of falling, or I use a walker? Then your artery breaks can be seated. Even sitting, you can do a lot. You can march in place, lifting one knee and then the other. You can alternate pointing your toes toward you and then away. You can squeeze a small ball or a rolled-up towel in your hands, activating forearm muscles. You can straighten each leg and hold it for a couple of seconds before lowering it. Every time you contract a muscle, you squeeze the blood vessels inside it and help push blood forward. Any movement, even seated, is better than immobility. Posture is another silent participant in arterial health. When we spend hours slumped in a chair with rounded shoulders and abdominal organs compressed, the heart has less space to move freely, the lungs cannot expand fully, and the blood pressure inside the chest can change. Every so often, during your artery breaks, place your feet flat on the floor. Imagine a string pulling the crown of your head toward the ceiling. Gently draw your shoulders back and down, and open your chest. Take 3 slow breaths in that position. This simple adjustment can improve oxygenation and reduce unnecessary pressure on many internal structures. Hydration is another piece of this puzzle. Many adults over 60 drink very little water during the day, either because they don't feel thirsty or because they fear having to run to the bathroom too often. But when you drink too little, your blood becomes relatively more concentrated. It flows with more difficulty, especially through smaller vessels. That does not mean you have to force liters of water if you have heart or kidney problems. Always talk to your doctor about safe amounts, but it does mean you should avoid spending long hours without a single sip. Keeping a small glass or bottle near your favorite chair and taking small sips regularly supports a healthier circulation. Stress also stiffens arteries. Not the kind of stress that lasts a few minutes, but the kind that lives in the background all day, worrying about the news, financial concerns, family tensions, frustrations with technology. When your brain stays in a constant alert state, your body releases hormones like cortisol and adrenaline more often. These substances are useful in emergencies, but when they are chronically elevated, they raise blood pressure, increase inflammation, and make arterial walls less flexible. That's why your daily routine should include not only movement, but also pockets of calm. You don't have to become a meditation expert. It can be as simple as choosing a 5-minute window in the morning and another in the afternoon to sit quietly, rest your hands on your thighs, close your eyes, and follow your breath. Inhale slowly through your nose, count to 4, hold for 2 seconds, and exhale gently through your mouth, counting to 6. As you exhale, imagine that your shoulders move away from your ears and your chest opens a little more. These short practices calm the nervous system, lower sympathetic tone, and give your arteries a break from the invisible pressure of daily worry. The evening is a decisive moment. Many people perform their longest chair session between dinner and bedtime. Here, we can introduce 2 powerful changes. First, try to make dinner slightly lighter and earlier as far as your culture and habits allow. A bit more vegetables, a bit less salt, fewer very heavy or fried foods late at night. Second, make a personal rule. After dinner, there is always 5 to 10 minutes of gentle movement before you sit or lie down. You can walk around the house, tidy up a bit, dance softly to your favorite song, or walk a short route near your home if it is safe. This movement buffer between dinner and the couch does several things. It helps digestion, reduces the chance of nighttime reflux, allows your body to manage post-meal sugar better, and improves the pattern of blood pressure during the night. When your arteries receive this gesture every night, instead of collapsing directly into a horizontal position after a heavy meal, they age differently. You are telling them, once again, I may be over 60, but I still use you. Stay flexible for me. To make all of this easier to remember, I like to summarize the transformation from a chair-bound day to an artery-friendly day with 3 simple rules. First rule, no block of sitting longer than 40 minutes without a 1 or 2 minute artery break. Second rule, after each main meal, especially breakfast and dinner, there is always a short walk or gentle movement session. Third rule, the day begins not with a rush to the chair, but with a small circulation ritual for your feet, legs, and breath. If you practice just these 3 rules, you are already changing the destiny of your arteries. Let me share with you the story of Martine. 68, a retired bus driver who came to my office complaining of leg heaviness, shortness of breath when climbing stairs, and blood pressure that just didn't want to go down, despite medication. When we reviewed his day, we discovered what you can already guess. He spent almost 10 hours sitting between TV, phone, and naps. We didn't start with a gym membership. We started with artery breaks, 5-minute walks after meals, and a short morning ritual at the edge of his bed. After several weeks, Martin noticed that his legs felt lighter at night and that he arrived at the top of the stairs without that burning in his chest. Months later, his blood pressure readings were more stable, and his doctor could adjust his treatment with more confidence. Now think about Elena, 72, who takes care of 2 small grandchildren in the afternoons. She arrived exhausted at the end of each day and thought that more movement would only make things worse. When we analyzed her routine, we saw that, in the moments when she was alone, she practically melted into the couch, trying to save energy. The problem is that this kind of passive rest was making her circulation sluggish. We added short, intentional movement moments in the morning and after lunch, before the grandchildren arrived. We also adjusted her posture and breathing when she sat. Little by little, Elena felt that the afternoons became more manageable and that she could play on the floor with the children and then get back up with less effort. And I also think of Don Luis, 80, who uses a cane and believed that his case was already lost. For him, walking long distances was not realistic. But we focused on something different: seated circulation. Every 30 minutes, he would do ankle circles, knee extensions, and hand squeezes with a small ball. We added a small standing routine, holding on to the back of a chair with micro steps and weight shifts from one leg to the other. After a few months, he told me something that I will never forget. "I don't walk further, but I walk more confidently." His feet felt less cold, and his sense of balance improved. His arteries, even at 80, responded to the new stimulus. All these examples have something in common. None of these people became athletes, and none eliminated all their time in the chair. What they did was to break the spell of the chair-bound day. They transformed a continuous line of stillness into a dotted line, full of small movements, breath resets, and conscious choices at mealtimes. And their arteries, which for years had been slowly stiffening, began to receive a different kind of daily message. Of course, there are things that this routine cannot replace. If you already take medication for blood pressure, cholesterol, or other heart conditions, these habits do not mean you should stop your treatment. Lifestyle and medication are allies, not enemies. Always talk to your cardiologist or primary doctor before making big changes in exercise, especially if you have chest pain, significant shortness of breath, dizziness, or a history of heart disease or stroke. The goal is not to act alone, but to become an active partner in your own care. Now, I want to invite you to something very personal. Take a moment and mentally review your last 3 days. How many hours did you spend sitting or lying down during the day? How often did you stand up for more than a minute? Did you walk a bit after eating, or did you go directly from table to chair? Did you give your arteries a chance to remember what it feels like to be flexible, or did you send them the message that their work can become more and more rigid? This reflection is not to generate guilt, it is to open a door, because from this awareness comes the power to change. If you are over 60, it is not too late. The arteries do not have an age in the way we think. They have a history. And starting today, you can begin to write a new chapter in that history. You can transform the daily routine that was silently stiffening them into a routine that massages, stimulates, and protects them. 10 extra steps today may seem like nothing, but 10 extra steps almost every day for a year are thousands of contractions of your heart and thousands of tiny expansions of your arterial walls. That repetition is what rebuilds health. If I had to summarize the most important idea of this entire video in one sentence, it would be this. After 60, the daily sit, and lie down routine stiffens your arteries much faster than your birth certificate, but a day full of small, frequent movements can slow that process and return surprising vitality to your heart and circulation. Your age is a number, your routine is a decision, and that decision, repeated day after day, is what your arteries listen to. Never forget this. Your body has not forgotten how to respond. Even if you have spent years in a chair-bound day, your arteries can still improve their flexibility, your muscles can still gain strength, your lungs can still expand more, and your heart can still work with less strain. The door to change is not in the past, It is in the next hour, in the next artery break, in the next time you decide to stand up and walk a little instead of staying still. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to do two things. First, choose one single change from everything we've talked about, just one, and start it today, not mañana. Maybe it's the morning circulation ritual, maybe it's the 5 minutes of walking after dinner, maybe it's the rule of standing up every 40 minutes. Second, share this video with someone you love who spends many hours in a chair and might not realize that this quiet routine is silently damaging their arteries. And finally, if you want to keep learning about practical science-based ways to protect your heart, your circulation, and your vitality in the years ahead, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, to leave a comment telling me what your day looks like and which part of your routine you are willing to transform. I'm Dr. Mary Parker, and it's an honor to walk with you on this path toward a more flexible heart, more alive arteries, and a life in which your age is not a prison, but simply a number that accompanies your decisions, not one that dictates your destiny.